Hello. This is our first review video for the year. The test is going to be on Monday for period 1 and 2, and on Tuesday for period 8 and 9. Here are the review sheet answers, and now I'm going to go over the review sheet with you. When air is pumped into an automobile tire, the tire pressure is inversely proportionate. As soon as you see inversely proportionate, xy equals xy. Another phrase that means the same thing as inversely proportionate would be varies inversely. You see either one of those, you write xy equals xy. 20 and 100. 50 x. Doesn't matter if you call it x or y. 2000 equals 50x. Solve the equation. X equals 40. So, what is the pressure in pounds? 40 pounds. Given the relation, which statement is true? It's talking about whether or not it's a function. You need to know what this -1 means. A -1 means inverse of A. And remember, for inverse, we switch x and y. So let's look at A. Are all the x values different? Yes. So A is a function. The inverse, we'd have to switch x and y. So let's write the inverse. 3, 2 would become 2, 3. 5, 3 would become 3, 5. 2, 6. 7, 4. Do any of the x values repeat? Yes. So this is not an inverse. The inverse is not a function. Only A is a function. A function, remember, each x value has only one y value. X can't repeat. For range, well, you can't see what I'm doing, but remember, I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to go along the y-axis from bottom to top, and I'm going to see where it starts hitting the graph, which is at 30, and where it ends hitting the graph, which is at 80. In step building notation, you have it here. If I wanted to do the domain, which I don't have to do.
Ms. Stone, please contact the main office. Ms. Stone.
That was annoying. If I want to do the domain, I would go from left to right. My graph starts at 0 and ends at 24. And remember, to help you do this, you literally take your pen and go along the axis. Domain algebraically, there's 4 circumstances. Circumstance 1, no restrictions. Your answers are all real numbers. Circumstance 2, radicals. Set the radicand greater than or equal to 0. Circumstance 3, a fraction. All real numbers except what makes the denominator 0. Circumstance 4, radical in the denominator. Set the radicand greater than 0. This is circumstance 2. So I set the radicand, only what's under the radical, greater than or equal to 0. From here I solve it. X is less than or equal. In integral notation, you would write your answer like that. Make sure you're familiar with both integral notation as well as secular notation. Composition of functions. Always start on the right. The first thing I'm going to do is h of -8. So I'm going to substitute into h of x. You can use a calculator if you want. You get -6. Now I take that -6 and I substitute it in for g. So I do g of -6 equals 1/2 -6 plus 8. Again, you can use a calculator if you'd like. Your answer is 5. Joey's math class is studying the basic quadratic function f of x equals x squared. So this is your initial original function. Each student is supposed to make 2 new functions by adding and subtracting a constant to the function. Joey chooses the function g of x equals x squared minus 5, and h of x equals x squared plus 2. Once I see addition or subtraction, I know it's going to be a translation. So you need to know your rules. Let's look at this one first. Am I subtracting 5 from the x or the whole thing? I'm subtracting it from the whole thing, so it's going down 5. Here, I'm adding 2 to the whole thing, so it's going up 2. Know your translation rules, know all your transformation rules, and of course, all that's in your tutor standards. Subtracted from. From comes first. 1/6 x squared plus 5/6 x plus 1/2 minus 1/3 x squared minus 2/3 x plus 1. Once you put from first, you need to keep change. So we keep the first polynomial, we change subtraction to addition, and we change the sign of everything in the other polynomial. This is algebra 1. The algebra 2 part is with the fractions now. 1/6 plus negative 1/3. I suggest you do it in the calculator. I'm not going to pull the calculator up now, but I suggest you just put it into the calculator and have the calculator do the work for you. 1/6 plus negative 1/3 is negative 1/6. 5/6 plus 2/3 is 9/6. If you reduce that, that's 3/2. 1/2 minus 1 is negative 1. That's it. Fractions. I want to get rid of fractions. To get rid of fractions, multiply by the LCD. To find my LCD, I take all my factors and I put them together. I have an x plus 2, so my LCD is x plus 2. The reason I do that is to get my denominators to cancel. X and x cancels, I'm left with 3x plus 2. X plus 2 and x plus 2 cancel, I'm left with x squared. X plus 2 and x plus 2 cancel, I'm left with negative 2x. From here, just algebra. 3x plus 6 plus x squared equals negative 2x. Mr. X squared, you want to party? Everybody's got to come over. And when I write my trinomial, I need to put the x squared term first, the x term second, and the constant term left. Party time. Bubbles, which mathematically means factor. There's no GCF, there's no dot, it is a trinomial, and I don't need to bridge because there's nothing in front of the x squared. What multiplies to 6 and adds to 5, 3 and 2. So each factor equal to 0. X plus 3 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. Solve each of them. X equals negative 3. X equals negative 2. Be prepared to do any type of factoring on this test. It might be GCF, it might be dots, it might be trinomial, it might be bridge, it might be grouping. Make sure you're comfortable with all of it. Wait. I didn't answer the question yet. Final step. I need to check to see if either of the answers makes the denominator 0. Does negative 3 make the denominator 0? No. It would be negative 3 here, it would be negative 1 here, it would be negative 1 here. That one's fine. Does negative 2 make any of them 0? Yes. If I substitute negative 2 in, I'm going to get, over here for example, I'll get negative 2 over negative 2 plus 2, which would be 2 over 0, which it can't happen. So, negative 2 doesn't work, negative 3 does. Make sure you do that final step and check. Again, I want to get rid of fractions, so I'm going to multiply by the LCD. The LCD here is x squared, the highest power of each variable that you see. First term is x squared. Second term, the squared cancels with the x, and you're left with 4x. Bottom left, x squared. X cancels with the squared, 2x. X squared is canceled, minus 8. I got rid of the complex fraction. To reduce the fraction now, I have to factor. GCF on top. Trinomial on bottom. Cancel common factors. I'm left with x on top. I'm left with x plus 2 on top. I can't reduce further. I can't cancel the x's because the one on the bottom is married. Mr. X squared, same type of thing. When it's x to the third, we treat it the same way. He wants to party. We can party right now because everybody's over, and we factor. No GCF, no dots, no trinomials, but it is grouping. Grouping always has 4 terms. The GCF for the first two is 4x squared. And because this is a minus, I'm factoring out a negative 25. These should always be the same. I combine my numerators. I'm sorry, I can combine my coefficients. Numerators, I'm still thinking about the fractions. And I keep my like term. Can you factor any further? Yes. Dots. You have to look for dots. You might not see it. SETI's factor equals 0. 2x plus 5 equals 0. 2x minus 5 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. X equals negative 5 halves. X equals positive 5 halves. X equals negative 2. Because there's no fraction, I don't have to check anything. Dividing fractions. Make sure you see what's going on here. So this fraction divided by this fraction. So we keep change, flip. Now it's a multiplication problem. To solve a multiplication problem, we need to factor. If we're reducing or multiplying, we need to factor all the married terms. So I'm going to now rewrite everything, but in factored form. Top left, trinomial. Bottom left, GCF. Top right, no GCF, no dots, no trinomial, no grouping, can't be factored. Bottom right, trinomial. Cancel anything that's on top and bottom. X minus 2's cancel. And the 3 minus z and the z minus 3 cancel to negative 1. On top, I'm left with negative 1, x plus 1. On bottom, I'm left with 7, x minus 1. You could distribute them if you like, or you can zero it. I prefer you to leave it in factored form, because if you miss something, you'll find it if it's still in factored form. That's it. Study. Practice. Again, I'll put up the answers here. Do not expect to do well if you do not prepare for this exam. If you're watching this video, that's a step in the right direction. But watching it alone is not going to help you. Do the problems. If you get stuck, refer to the video for help. But you need to do the problems. Practice. I will see everybody in the future. And we are